studio, beg your pardon, is Mitchell O'Brien, Garvan-based personal insolvency practitioner. Welcome back to the programme.
Good morning, Billy. Thank you for having me.
Now, it's more than just about the rebrand. There's better news for people who find themselves in difficult situations.
Billy, there are 4 statutory schemes now in place for households that find themselves unable to meet their financial commitments as and when they fall due. 3 of those schemes, albeit were introduced first in law in 2012, have been amended with the Personal Insolvency Amendment Act this summer. For somebody who has debts of under €35,000, very little income and very little assets, the debt relief notice is a mechanism that can basically eliminate those debts without the need to make a payment. It used to be 20,000, but it just wasn't high enough. The amount of people that were coming to us that had €22,000 worth of debt and they were just over the threshold, the €35,000 threshold now means that we can deal with them seamlessly.
And generally, that debt has accrued. Why and how?
It may have accrued from rent arrears, it may have accrued from credit card debt, there may be a credit union debt, there may be some HP debt, the type of, it may be money lenders, when your income is below your reasonable living expenses, you will find access to money over a period of time and amass a debt. Unfortunately, that's where people are.
So it just gets written off?
It gets written off.
And how does one go about that being done?
One would consult a personal insolvency practitioner, or in relation to debts under €35,000, they can contact MABS directly as an approved intermediary authorised by the Insolvency Service of Ireland.
So you don't have to sit there with your debt, you can do something about it?
You can do something about it.
But you have to be able to prove a few things, yes?
Oh, yes. You have to have, like, if somebody was on social welfare, they would have their social welfare receipts. If somebody was in employment, they would have pay slips. They would have 6 months bank statements. They're the type of proofs that we need.
So when they're all added up, you then prove that, look, I cannot match the debt, even though these are my sources of income.
Again, the 4 schemes, there's the debt relief notice for those under €35,000. There's a debt settlement arrangement for somebody with an unlimited amount of unsecured debt. That scheme didn't have to be amended. Then there's the personal insolvency arrangement, and this is the one that will deal with secured debts and unsecured debts, and where the family home mortgage would fall into. There was a lot of talk about the creditor veto, the banks being able to veto arrangements. We lobbied government very hard to bring in an appeal mechanism. So if your mortgage lender were to veto your proposal and not accept it, we can now take it to the Special Personal Insolvency Circuit Court and ask them to approve it, regardless of how the voting of your mortgage lender went, under certain criteria.
Now, okay, that's one aspect. You said there's 4 in all that you want to talk about.
So, and the 4th one then is bankruptcy. And bankruptcy is what we use if one of the other 3 schemes won't work. Bankruptcy used to be, going back 5 years ago, bankruptcy was a 12-year term without an automatic discharge. So it was a life sentence. Bankruptcy was a tool that creditors used to chase somebody for money. We'll bankrupt you if you don't pay us. Now bankruptcy is a form of protection for the debtor. Bankruptcy is something that the debtor says, it's the safety button in the middle of the table, you press it and we get high court protection for you from your creditors. The most important concept across these 4 schemes is that the recent changes in law introduce the concept of reasonable living expenses into law as an amount of money that a household will not be forced to live below while servicing debt. So we will only service debt if you're from income above your reasonable living expenses. Reasonable living expenses are made up of 4 categories. The first one is set costs, and they come from tables, and they include things like your grocery shopping, your electricity, your insurance, social participation and inclusion. So there's money set aside, and so you can join the local GAA club, that you can attend family occasions and the likes. So there's 16 categories, and I won't go into them now, but I'll leave them with you if anybody is interested to to look. The second category is housing. So it's rent if you're a renter, or it's a mortgage payment if you've got a mortgage on your house. The third one is childcare. So if both adults in a household are working and there's a primary school child, well, you've got to allow for childcare, otherwise somebody's got to give up a job, and that makes the situation worse. And the fourth category then is special circumstance cost. And a special circumstance cost is a cost that your household needs to incur that isn't caught in the set costs, the housing or the childcare. We add those up, and it's only after that any income over and above that amount can go to servicing debt. And if there's an amount that we can give your creditors on a monthly basis over 60 months or over 72 months, well, then we will use a debt settlement arrangement or a personal insolvency arrangement. Alternatively, we can use bankruptcy protection, and ultimately your creditors will get nothing.
But what the basic message that you're giving again today is that you don't have to sit there suffering in your debt, that something can be done.
The sooner that you engage with a personal insolvency practitioner, the better you will be and the better your creditors will be. Now, it's very important. Personal insolvency practitioners are trained, they're authorised or licensed and heavily regulated by the Insolvency Service of Ireland. Somebody is not a personal insolvency practitioner unless they're on the Insolvency Service of Ireland's register of PIPs. Right, so what you do is you go to isi.gov.ie or you go to apip.ie and you pick a personal insolvency practitioner in your area and you make an appointment to contact them. The first thing that the PIP will want from you is a debtor questionnaire filled out, which will capture your name, date of birth, how many people in your household, what ages are they at school, what your income is, be it social welfare, be it employment from, income from employment, income from self-employment, whether it's pension. Then we will ask to capture your assets. What assets do you have? What debts do you have? And a little bit of background about your situation.
Go on.
Immediately on receiving that information, we'll make an appointment for you to come and meet your personal insolvency practitioner, and the process will be clearly identified to you with timelines, how much it'll cost, how you would expect to end up at the end of the process. Because why would somebody enter a process without clarity around what's going to be at the other side?
Now, briefly, what then is the good news about this new bankruptcy law?
If you're goosed, if you really don't have anything to give your creditors, all of your debts will be extinguished the morning that you're adjudicated a bankrupt in Court 14 in the Four Courts in Dublin. Somebody doesn't have to speak. The judge will say, I've read your paperwork in this application. I adjudicate you bankrupt on your own petition. Please make yourself known to the bankruptcy inspector on the way out of court.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. 1 year later, you're discharged. If your income goes above your reasonable living expenses during that period, you will make a payment for the amount above your RLEs for a further 2 years. But if your income is below your reasonable living expenses during that 12-month period, you will pay nothing.
Okay, the website then is?
apip.ie for the ISI's website. Backontrack.ie, and our own website is sustainabledebt.ie.
But you can have something done with your debt. That's the bottom
immediately.
Line. Okay. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us. That's Mitchell O'Brien, Dungarvan-based personal insolvency practitioner, and you heard him on Tuesday's DeiseAM.
Hey, it's DeiseAM here. Join me every weekday from 3